Hello, hi, bienvenue to Lost in Translation, where we explore with a guest a word to draw upon their experience, their lifestyle, their culture, their story to define the word, and so no one ever gets lost along the way. I'm Cynthia Bernard, your host. And today we're going to have Laetitia Miron. Salut Laetitia.
Hello.
Hello. You're the recurrent, I would like to have even more recurrent you in my life. We need to figure it out. I'm bad at that. But so today we're going to talk about show season. So we are literally end of February, and the show season started. And so just to remind everyone, this year you're with Lexis, you're a Quebecer.
Yes.
You're with Lexis Independent World. You've went to several Winterguard here in Quebec and Pride last year and Lexis this year. And I wanted to ask you a little bit about your experience about show season. But first, I always ask what the word means to you. So what does show season means to you?
I think what comes to mind when I think about show season is like the excitement, because we build so much of it doing like training and, writing the show, learning everything, and you're doing the same thing over and over again for the first quite a few couple of weeks. And then you build that excitement and you're looking forward so much to show season. And then when you're in it, it goes by so incredibly fast.
Yeah, especially this year, it's like a 6-week regional season.
Yeah.
On top of WGI, it's not like sometimes it's 7. I think one year was 8, but just that one extra weekend makes a difference. So do you guys use, it's like a term that I've got introduced this year mostly, but like tech season, design season, show season, or not? You've never heard of that?
I've heard it before, but I don't think we really use it, at least not this year. But I'm sure people would love to hear about it.
I think I don't know much about it, so we need to find someone that knows more. And maybe there's not that much into it, but I think it's interesting to kind of separate your seasons as tech season, where you put your people together and you try to put them back all in the same technique because they come from different drum corps, marching bands, whatever. And then you have your design season. And when you think about it, that's kind of how pretty much everyone runs their season anyway. Like you start teching, maybe a little bit choreo exploration, but as at least if the designer hasn't shown up or the person that does the drill doesn't show up, you're just kind of an exploration, I think. And then show season starts.
I think the design and tech season are sometimes just like overlapping quite a bit. Mm-hmm. And it depends, honestly. I feel like in Quebec, we start our season really early because we don't have marching band.
Yeah.
So we have tech season for a while. Yeah. Like we train, we sometimes try choreo and styles and all that. And then eventually we get into like building the show. I don't know if it's because of a difference in timing or just a difference in culture, but the past 2 years, we had, whether that's Lexis or Pride, we had rounds of audition. So like first round of audition, then callback, then eventually we like got our email, said we made it, all of those things. And then we showed up for the first weekend. And I think last year at Pride, the first weekend we got there on Friday night and they were like, okay, we're starting the staging tomorrow.
Wow.
Yeah. It was crazy. I literally was like this.
Oh mon Dieu.
And this year at Lexis, I was expecting like a similar, because I was like, okay, maybe this was a 1-year thing. It just happened. And then I got to Lexis and we got there the first weekend. And they're like, oh, Rick is coming in next weekend. We're starting this show.
Wow.
But we like do train like in the midst of it all. Right. Like they don't come in like early in the morning. So like the first hour or 2 of the morning is like an hour dance class and an hour of technique block. And then the designer comes in. So it's overlapping, even though they're separate times in the day.
That's interesting because I mean, we kind of would do the same thing. It's just later on the season because like we would always do the schedule as September is training, and we would try to at least learn some twirls that would correlate in the show. But we knew that the first staging, and you know what? Now that I'm thinking about it, and I don't know if it's the same for every group because that's another thing. Like it's maybe not just a culture thing. It's just like how we ran stuff when we were there. But we didn't know who was gonna. See, you guys were doing auditions, you get a contract, you say yes or no by whatever that date.
Yeah.
For us, we needed to convince some kids all the way to the first, or make sure that everyone was committed all the way to the first weekend of staging.
Yeah.
So it's like all September, which
checks out because auditions are usually mid-end of September, and then we start the season. It's in October already. So of course we have to get the train going, I guess.
Yeah. That's interesting. I would be interested to talk to maybe people of other categories also, because it probably isn't the same if you're an A-class independent, or of course Scholastic is probably a completely different realm of things, but like independent A or open class, it may not be the thing, or when you're a big group that makes finals, when you have auditions and when you don't have auditions, like I'm pretty sure there's kind of a different
the dynamic is different.
Why? See, if you have kids that show up to your door and you're lucky to choose, or if you think about Pride, I mean, I'm pretty sure you were good at Tech Block and you were learning something, but your members are up and running pretty much when they have the contract.
Yeah, I think they use Tech Block a lot. Like every single rehearsal until finals week, we did the same 2 exercises we did all season, which was kind of foreign to me because usually I feel like in the past, back home at least, we would learn more exercises, maybe like spins and stops, just spin medley, then cones, then all those things. And gradually as we went through the season, they would just kind of fall out. And we'd just have warm up, 15-minute warm up, and then we have to go. Consistently last year, every single rehearsal, we would do spins with feet and spins and stop, which we're calling spins and stops, but it's a lot of things are happening in that exercise. But I think they use technique, yes, to build technique if it's necessary, but also to make sure we all looked the same, to make sure we were uniform in the way that we approach things. And I know also they mentioned at some point that they used our technique exercises. They made them specifically long, they made them 6-minute long, each of them, to make sure that we would focus for 6 minutes, just like we would have to focus in the show, because they made them hard. So we had to really work on it and also focus our brain the entire time to practice what was going to happen in a show.
That makes sense. So you started your fairly late, your first show. I don't know if it's compared to everyone in Europe, but it was February 2nd. Is that?
Yeah, the first weekend of February, I think.
Yeah, so it's the third. I think the second. Well, anyways, but so is that fairly late for you? Because I know
it felt late to me.
Okay.
Because I think in Quebec we usually start mid to end of January.
Right.
Last year I was looking at it because this year I was like, it feels so late. Why does it feel so late? And then I looked at this calendar from last year at Pride, and it was the same thing. we just had a family friends preview the weekend before, but it wasn't a show and we didn't have our uniforms on. But we did the first weekend of February as well. So I think it's just a difference in the way things are timed, maybe between circuits or between countries even. But yeah, it definitely felt late to me, even though it's maybe just a week or two difference.
Yeah, well, when you know that everyone is premiering, but it was 2 weeks prior for us, even for Blessed Sacrament, I think, because I think
a lot of people started at least 1 week before us, or even maybe 2 weeks when we look at back home. And yeah, to be fair, they were all mostly circuit shows because WJ hadn't started.
No.
But it still felt somehow crazy not to start like I usually did.
Yeah. And so how does the schedule change when show season? How was it first of all, how did the first show go? But a routine of a first show, and then does your rehearsal weekends change a lot from there, or not that much?
I mean, there's an obvious time constraint. So you get much less rehearsal when you have a show. It's usually built in a similar manner, and it's been built in a similar manner, I think, across every organization I've been to. But Pride and Lexis both consistently kept our technique blocks. Like, maybe they shortened them, but we made sure to do like spins with feet, spins and stop, like, which are the only two exercises we had at Pride. But then we had more at Lexis, but we like do them on rehearsal days. But on show days we do spins with feet and spins and stop. And then like the typical schedule would be dance class, those two exercises, tosses, show tosses that you need to do, which is when I fall out. And then we would have, I think they've been doing it on show days. They've done it once or twice on rehearsal days, when we had shorter days, but they make us do like a standstill, but it's not like you don't have to do everything. It's mostly like for you to warm yourself up and get your hands and your mind and your body ready. And then mostly we just chunk through the show, which there's sometimes some little, like, they've asked us the night before the indie regional, they were like, okay, like, because we had rehearsal that Friday night. And at the end, they were like, okay, what do you guys want to work on tomorrow? Is there anything you want to touch tomorrow before we just chunk through? Or like that you want to have more attention on it when we chunk? Then they took notes of that. We did our rehearsal, same, recipe the next day, put a little more attention in certain areas that we wanted to, and then did our chunks and then packed it up. Because we didn't do run-throughs on show days.
You don't do run-throughs at all?
Not this year. No, we do run-throughs on like rehearsal days, but not on show days.
Ah. And you know why that is?
It's a very physically demanding show. Okay. And I think it's a consistent like thing, because I don't think last year they did run-throughs either.
Okay.
But it's physically very demanding, so I think it takes all the energy out of us if we do them. So we usually would chunk through the entire show. Kind of like in the summer at Boston, we'd never do run-throughs on show days. We'd always do production runs, and that's kind of how I see it. Production run, but instead of like a chunk. Yeah.
And when you're there at a show, maybe it's different for a regional than a circuit show, but how is it? Does it feel different, or do you show up like half an hour before your show, or do you have a lot of downtime to the show site?
So far, we've only had our first show in the regional. They were different. We have another show this weekend, so I guess I'll see. But at the first show, we had quite a bit of downtime when we like got to the school and all of those things. I think because of logistics and practice times and all of those things, we were on the much tighter schedule when we got to Avon. Like, we ended rehearsal and it was pretty much do everything as fast as you can, get ready, do your stuff, drive, and then unload. And we have like Lex's body before we do like our warm up, so we do it in the hallway. So it was not as much downtime, but then again, it was maybe different because of the practice time that we had, because we practiced at Warren Central at a certain time slot. So
yes, it's a regionals. I don't know if it's, but sometimes regionals you cannot all show up at the same time because it's just too many people in the vicinity at the same time. So that could be it also.
It's a big regional.
Was it?
It was, it wasn't a power regional, but it was like there were just a lot of groups, because Indiana has a lot of groups.
And who did you see? Who did you compete with that weekend?
In independent world, we had us, so Lexis, Onyx, Juxtaposition, Elevate, and Èclipses, I think. Yes.
Onyx seems so good. But you know me, I like that type of show. So yeah. Like, that note, there's so many people, and I'm sure I'm not going to be someone that just pulls out like a drama, but like there's some people that cannot understand or correlate with the music, the one note. And I guess as a member, I would be like, are you kidding me? Like, when you hear that note for your entire season.
I mean, I guess it's a good metronome.
Oh my God. But it changes tempo. And yet again, maybe not.
I haven't gotten a chance to see it yet.
I need to watch it. You should watch it, but I need for people that like that type of program, and even people that don't see, that's something I would like people to understand. And I mean, as a spectator, you do whatever you want, and that's fine. But as a curious person, you should even look at programs that is maybe not your genre.
Style. Yeah.
And understand why it still works and why it doesn't work, maybe, or why it's successful and why not it's successful. And there's type of programs that I would never be able to write, but I can still enjoy. And there's programs that are not my genre.
I can still appreciate them.
Yeah, it's still in the top 10 shows that I've seen in my life. But Onyx has always been that type of program that I like, where I feel like I need to use my brain to watch the show. Like, it's not a layback look at the program for me.
Yeah.
And anyway, and I think the tempo of that note changes, but maybe it's an effect created by design that creates musicality. But that's good. If you're curious, go. There's a and the music stops, and I think their first show.
No, the music stopped at their finals run of the regional not on purpose.
Not on purpose. It's not on purpose, but they still.
Yeah, apparently they killed it.
Like, there's little timing issues in flag, but like they're in a parallel line, and they still use it really well. And as far as I can tell, they were not counting. Like, they were legit.
That's what I was told, that they were just like looking at each other and being so connected.
See,
which is insane.
But I know, like, I don't know now anymore, but I know, like, back way then, maybe like. That's good. Like, I've known Onyx since the 99, that they kind of, I think it's when Michael Lenz showed up. And I don't want this to be an Onyx thing. I'm such a fangirl, but they used to rehearse without tempo, without anyone. It was just like, all right, rifle block, and it would go. Like it's just, to connect. That's good. Anyways. So yeah, and how does it feel to compete in that type of level in world class? Like, do you put any mind and attention to it, or it depends on the culture of the program, maybe?
Maybe it's just me, but it doesn't feel all that different. Mm-hmm. It does, in a way that, like, obviously it's a different category and you have a different set of skills, but it's still challenging in the way that it was challenging back home. And obviously I also do different equipment than I did back home.
Yeah.
Or lack of equipment.
Yeah.
But it feels like the same thing, just with different people.
Yeah.
Because it's the same concept. You're still performing, you're still with your teammates on that tarp, and you're still, like, wanting to achieve excellence at the highest level, no matter what category you're in, and no matter what that means on the sheet. It doesn't have to change your approach as a performer.
And like you say that.
As you grow, like, you're naturally going to change your approach in a way that is positive, in a way that is more mature. So you don't necessarily realize the changes happening because it's natural. So that probably is what happened. You just kind of grow, and you can grow in every category. But I think I didn't really notice a big change in performing in those categories.
I think maybe you were also a staff. I think when show season starts, all the judging and competition itself is more a staff responsibility at some sort of level, where it's your job to make sure that you fit in this sheet. It's your job to make sure that the judges understand your message, or that you understand theirs, and to train their member to move forward. So if it's a lack of training that is shown in the judges, it's still your responsibility to train the members, and not the other way around. Unless, like, it's a group that kind of just doesn't show up at show sites, but I've never really seen that much in all the years. Like, it can happen, one or two shows. We all had that show. Where we feel like a cadet, but like a level group. But, like, I think at shows, like, as much as a member you want to see what you feel like you deserve, you kind of don't have any tangible.
No, the best thing you can do is do your job, and that job, yes, it changes, like, technically, sure, maybe when you get to World, you toss a 7 or do a bunch of tricks underneath.
Yeah.
But that's still your job, and that's still what you've been training to do all year.
Mm-hmm.
Just as you've been training to do all year in A class, if you were tossing like a 5 or even a 6, I don't know. I don't know anymore. But
yeah, we don't know. Regional A do like 6s now.
I've seen a 6 2-turn in a regional A, but it was a solo.
Why? It's good for him, the performer.
Yeah.
But like, wow, it's good.
I could never in regional A, and like we all remember how I looked in regional A. I was but actually, maybe we don't remember how I looked because I was actually hidden behind a prop. So. But yes, I think your job's the same. Mm-hmm. While the technicalities are different and the skills you have to achieve might be different, the approach you need to have should remain the same or should just refine itself as you grow, no matter what category you're in.
Yeah, that's cool.
Hey everyone, it's Jeremy, and here are your announcements coming from the box. You want to drink up on a water break Lost in Translation with Cynthia Bernard, uncover the glitz and glamour of twirlers with On a Water Break in Rhinestones hosted by Lexi Duda, get the insider scoop from the stands with On a Water Break from the stands with Cindy Berry, aka Leander Mama, and join the band family in On a Water Break family style with Stephanie Click, plus much more to come. Don't miss our recent episode celebrating Black History Month with insightful roundtables and amazing guests. And guess what? Women's History Month is just around the corner. Make sure to follow us on social media at On a Water Break for all the latest updates and bonus content. Got something to share or a burning question? Email us at onawaterbreakpodcast@gmail.com. So don't be the person that doesn't tell their friends about a water break. Make sure everyone stays hydrated. Okay, field staff, take it away.
And so now we're not mid. I don't have a hard time now. We're not mid. Maybe a third of the show season. I don't know for you. Like we're the 20th of February. I'm saying end of February. Last weekend, every group I walked in, kids are tired, and it's not like color guard tired. It's like life tired. Like
like midterms and 2 jobs and all of those things.
And then Bobo kind of
injuries,
little injuries come. Or big injuries, like injuries that were hidden, kind of resurface. And it's that time of the season that the staff, we don't want people to stop or take a break. Well, I mean, as a staff, you don't want ever people to take a break except when they need to, but we get kind of scared because we have responsibilities towards WGI or championship. But we need like the performers to care for your body. Like, do you have tips and tricks, or do you or is it even different this year that you're not spinning? So you're just dancing this year? I shouldn't say just, that word shouldn't exist. You're only dancing in this program this year.
I think obviously I don't remember as much of the weapon injuries, like the finger injuries and all of those things, or the worst ones that are probably you get smacked in the head or something. Those are I would call them not flukes, but they're not built upon injury. You didn't make this happen by doing this over and over and over again. It just happened. But I think for every single performer, no matter what they spin, their bodies, you can't do your show without your body. I don't care what you spin. You need to take care of your body. You need to stretch, you need to hydrate, and during the week. Yes, it's your staff responsibility to make sure you have enough water and to make sure you get that time.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. And I will stand by that. But you need to also make sure you're doing the same thing when you're in the middle of your workday and you're not thinking about it and you're not thinking about the weekend and you're oh, I haven't had water in 2 hours. Well, drink a little cup, at least one. And this, it's always a dance. Choreographers text people. But both at Lexis and at Pride, they would always tell us, both of them would tell me, and the color guard, be smart, be safe. When you're doing your run through at the end, when you're so tired, trust your technique. if you don't use your technique, if you don't land toe ball heel when you need to land, that's when injuries are going to happen. Because as annoying as it is, and I'm sure it applies to weapon land too, if you don't trust your technique, that's when bad things happen. When you get tired, it tends to slip in your mind, but you have to stay present because it's a mental game. Like when you're so tired, and it's life tired too, you're thinking about everything that's happening. If you don't stay present, if you don't stay mentally engaged, that's when those mistakes will happen. That's when you'll slip. That's when you'll let your technique go. And that's when you'll get injured.
Yeah. So take care of your body all week. I always say championship starts, like it starts when you're born, right? But like championship starts the first show, because from the first show all the way to championships, if you don't care, like even in the summer, you know, when
especially in the summer.
Yeah, I think it was at Les Stentors, like they were doing the Camp de la Mort, so
spring training.
Yeah, spring training, and they were starting their tour in California. Am I wrong?
Yeah,
in the south of some sort. And the kids were not drinking enough water in spin training in Quebec. Like, I mean, it wasn't snowing, people, in July.
It's still hot.
It's still hot. It's hot in Quebec sometimes, but not California hot.
Not like sun blaring in your face. You're going to die hot.
Yeah. And I was like, it doesn't, like, you should have been drinking last week for the California 2 week. Yeah. So today you need to like chug that as that's good. So yeah, especially
sleep
and water, stretching, I guess, but
stretching, ice and elevate. That's like all the small injuries. I'm not saying if you have like a deep injury that to like get a PT to look at. But ice and elevate will always help. And it's like you said, in the summer, it's such a similar thing, but at like a much higher level, where like at Boston, they would talk about it sometimes to us. They'd be like, our job is like, we've gotten you to this point. We've gotten you skill-wise to this point. We've gotten you, stamina-wise, all of those things. We've gotten you to this point, which is like usually around like, I don't know, San Antonio. I don't know, like halfway through the season, maybe 2/3 into the season. And then they're like, and now we just need to make sure you stay at that level. Yeah. And that usually means taking care of you. That means making sure you have the rest that you need, making sure you have the water that you need, because it seems so small, but like, and I like as a staff member too, it can slip my mind, but like you need to give your kids water. Yeah. And you need to give them time to drink water. Yeah. Like, sure, gush and go. Okay. But you need to have actual time where they're going to be like able to like sit down and drink a lot of water, maybe take a snack, rest, take a breath. Because yes, you want to build their stamina and their abilities and all of those things, but you need to make sure their bodies aren't breaking down. I think in the summer, if you're in I don't want to say good organization, but if you're a mindful organization, as much as I think Boston is probably one of the ones that I've heard was the most, not only mindful, but very vocal about that with you guys. Like it was like, but in the summer, you kind of leave your hands within the organizations, leave your body and you within the organization's hands. And in the winter, the week is yours. Yes. So if you're not making those smart decisions during the week, you need to show up as much as the other ones are showing up and the ones that are made the right decisions. So it's just easier to kind of make the right decisions during the week. And the other thing that you said, like, we're not talking about like not real injuries. I shouldn't say it that way, but like a broken toe, a broken finger. And like, if you have something, and that is like, it's been a while that it didn't happen to me, but I'm thinking about like earlier years that I taught at least Èclipses. Kids at this point of the season would hide their injuries, like the injuries that would need them to stop twirling for a week or two. And yeah, you make a face. And because I don't know why, actually. It's not, I don't even think, you can tell me why, but I wouldn't think it's because they're scared of getting cut. Like, we don't have backups. No. I think, like, especially back in those times, the biggest fear for me was two things. One, having to sit out and like being that person, which is nothing bad in retrospect, because you're taking care of your body and you're making sure you can actually show up for your teammates when it matters. And maybe when it matters isn't right now in the middle of the season, in the middle of this random gym. Like, sure, look, be engaged mentally here, but if you need to rest that injury to make sure you can show up and do your job later, then that's what you need to do. But it's that fear of being seen as that person who sits out. Yeah. And also what my like other biggest fear was actually having to go to a doctor and then being like, you need to stop, which has happened before. And it's harder harder to be like, oh, I'm not going to listen to a doctor when you just ignore it. Yeah. It's it doesn't have to be my problem.
We need to have another episode about this because I don't know. I took that and to do like a long story short that we should really do. I think it's something that people could really learn from what happened to you. But long story short, you had a back injury all the way to like the first regional, and 2 weeks after it was basically like you needed to stop twirling if you wanted to maybe ever twirl again type of thing. Like we didn't know the level of, and but I took, and then it looked like the worst thing on earth, right? And even like I remember Sobro, I kept on, and you're a very professional member, and I think we're really listening to how, like, trying to be mindful of, is it a fluke or is it someone that kind of rests all the time, and now we need to talk more about professionalism than being hurt and how to deal with hurt. But you were never a kid that I was like, I think she's not hurt for real. Yeah. Like, and I remember like being like, are you going to be okay? And you're like, yeah, I'm okay when I'm doing things. So I would listen to you because that's, like you were pushing your body all the way. My point is, if as a member you don't know, like go outside with like color guard staff. Most of the time we're not knowledgeable enough to know.
No, they're not trained for that.
If maybe like to the best, I'm going to say rest, but I don't know how or why or how, so go outside, go get the professional opinion. I know in the US it's not the same as like people are going to be like, yeah, Canadian, it's all free for you. But it's not all free.
It's not all free at all. So you do have to wait for a very long time.
24 hours to see someone. And like, I'm just thinking of like, hey, can you imagine if I sprain my ankle and you show to the hospital, they're going to be like, can you just fix yourself? Can you just not show up for this? So anyways, we're not going to talk about the health system of neither
countries.
The countries, like there's flaws either ways, but go see someone professional to have some sort of opinion and that you can relate to your staff. And most of the time, I don't think people cut people because they're hurt. Like you've been in a very high, like at Pride, you got a rifle at the head and they didn't cut you. Like it's not, you had weeks off. And
they were the ones making sure, like, cause I was not being safe and I was trying to not be safe in the aspect that I went to the hospital and they checked me out and they were like, okay, you don't have a brain bleed, but you do have a pretty severe concussion.
Yeah.
And this was the night before the Avon Regional. So I was like, I need to perform. I need to be there for my teammates. And like that, because when you get to that point, especially when you're like on the field or on the floor and you're just stuck in it and that's all you see and that's all that matters. And then you have to have those staff or their staff or the professional opinion of anyone at this point, but especially those staff members that will be like, hey, you need to see a doctor, or hey, the doctor said this, it's not an option. Like I remember sitting in front of Robin, who's the staff Pride, and being like, the doctor said something about 2 weeks off, but I think I can perform tomorrow. And she was like, no. And she looked at me and she was like, I know you're going to be mad at me, but I need you to rest and I need you to take care of yourself.
Yeah.
And she would like check in with me through the week and being like, making sure that like I'm doing what I need to do. Yeah. And I'm not like overexerting myself, because I feel, yes, you're responsible for everything you need to achieve when you sign a contract or when you become part of any group, but you're also responsible for your own body, making it to the end of your life. That took me so long to realize, to be like, that's the only body I get.
Yeah.
And
we're hard on it. We're hard on it with drum corps. We're hard. And we're not treated like, when I was talking to a professional dancer this weekend, because she's our choreographer at Sana, and she was like, I don't know what's worse, like my injuries that I know I've had since like training 14, 15, whatever, and that she's still working on them and stuff, but she's a professional dancer, so she's always hurt, or to have people that are hurt but don't have the surrounding and the trainings that a professional dancer has, and kind of don't know. There's things that we have that we don't know we have, or, so I think all that to say, and it's not a judgmental way, and it's not like I know it all, but as a staff and as a member, being a professional member is also taking, like you said, your body all the way through the season and your life. And as a staff, your job is to make sure that you create a safe environment for the kids so they can be successful all the way to WGI and show them theirs and know your realms of skills. Is that the right word? Yes.
Because staff members, not in recent years at least, but like there's that culture of I need you to perform. I need you to be here right now. And
which is true. Like but that's my
those
thing where
things
I'm
are true at the same time.
But for you to show up and be excellent and perform, you need some time to rest.
Like those two things can coexist. Like,
exactly.
Yeah, you need me to show up, but you need me to show up more importantly at WGI. And also, you do have a responsibility to me, not only to make sure I get through the season safely, but that does not impact me for the rest of my life.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Especially if it can be prevented.
Yeah. So, but that's, we have so many discussions we can have. And that thing, like, I really want to talk about that, to how people need to listen to their injuries so it doesn't affect their real, I don't want to say color guard and drum corps is not real life, but
I love the activity. I love it so much, but it's flags on grass and, weapons on a tarp and horns on the field.
Yeah.
And we love it. We're so passionate about it.
Yeah.
But in the end, it's such a small part of our lives.
Yeah.
Even if it's a big part of our lives, it's still just a part of our lives.
And thank God, like for you, that's not what happened. But we know stories of people that could have or are not able to walk properly now at years that you should be able to.
Yes, like if somebody hadn't, if the staff hadn't been like, okay, you need to stop, I would have probably kept going, because I was also young and didn't realize that it was going to affect me for the rest of my life. I couldn't walk after run-throughs. I didn't feel my legs.
No, you couldn't. You couldn't physically walk, and that's when it kind of hit a wall for all of us. And we need to do something about that. If you're open to do it, because I think it's such a good thing. And I think one of the things that helped is how much like your parents had trust. I trust your parents. I would trust your parents with my daughter's life. And I think although they were really upset in that moment because it was a scary 2-3 weeks. Yeah. They really trusted that we would make the right decisions, and more importantly, like that's good. We can talk later, but with the realms of scales of your mother, she would be a big part of like decisions that I would make, because I dye yarn, like that's not what I do compared to especially her. Anyways, but before we should do another one about that. But championship, so we can finish with that. Championship is going to be
yes for us, because we have tri-state championships. Then. Okay. We have MIPA championships, and then we have world championships.
Do you approach championship differently? I've been thinking about that. Like, as a performer, do you need to think about championship differently? Because it feels like, as a staff at least, like I tried to think about championship differently, because it's like 2-hour rehearsals, performance and stuff. And I'm thinking of the world class where you guys end up going to bed late, like schedules feels like it's different, or it doesn't. No, I don't know.
No, it does. I for people listening, I just roll my eyes because I can't go to bed late. And obviously when you're in world class, sometimes you have to go on really late. Last year we performed at finals. It was like 10 and I was already ready to go to bed. But honestly, how do I approach championships? I would say there's like two truths that I like coexist. There's two wolves in me that coexist. Yeah. One of them is like, I don't want to change my approach. Mm-hmm. I want to be consistent with what I've done all season, which is what I know works, because I don't even remember who said this to me, but somebody said it again a couple of weeks ago. And I think it was a staff member in the summer, but they were like, throughout the season, every rep you do, you put a little bead in a jar. Mm-hmm. Every single rep you do, every decision you make, you throw one in the jar. And when you come to shows, you just draw one out of that. So you want to make sure that the reps you put in during the season are the good ones and the ones that are the majority of success, basically, because you want to draw that bead. And you want to give yourself the tools. So I'm like, don't change your approach, do what you've done, but also you have to be aware at the same time. You have to prepare for how different it might feel, how being in that arena or being in whatever, another center, any place WGI can happen, you have to be ready to know that it's going to feel different, but that you still shouldn't change your approach.
Yeah.
So it's preparing for it to be different while keeping that consistency. That I think is something that helps ease a lot of that anxiety to me. I've never been like a performance anxiety and color guard person as much as I've been anxious in so many other aspects of my life. But still, like, I get nervous and I want to make sure I do well, and it's stressful for everyone, like no matter the level. And I think what helps me feel more comfortable and more prepared and more ready is knowing that I've done everything that I can and that I'm going to do the same thing. And I need to be aware that it's going to feel different at times, but I'm going to make sure it feels just the same.
Makes sense. Well, thank you for this today. I always say that we need to make this happen more often. I think you're very knowledgeable and relevant. Am I calling myself unrelevant? I don't know, but to members performing right now, I'm unrelevant to members performing right now. I think that I am, but I think people can relate, and I hope people can learn and understand and have a great show season.
Thank you.
I hope I'll see you at championships. I mean,
hope so.
We all know we're all in the same space, but who knows where
it's so crowded. Sometimes you get a little lost.
It feels a really big space when it's not that much, but there's so many people. And Sarah is coming.
That's true.
My daughter is coming. I found her a big, expensive front ticket.
Nice.
and yeah. And anyways, so thank you, Laetitia. And I hope to talk to you soon. If anyone wants to join me and have a discussion at Lost in Translation where we can drop on a word and discuss about that with your life experience, whether you're a mom, a performer, and just a color guard lover, reach to us to on a water break on all social media. Thank you. Thank you, Steve.
Thank you.